Hey, Better Editors, welcome back. My name is Chris, and today we are going to talk about tacos. Just kidding. We're going to talk about folder structures. It might seem a little boring, but it's something that will help you be more organized and ultimately faster before you even jump into an edit. I've got some sweet downloads for you, as well as some good tips. Let's see what they are. So why folder structures? Folder structures are extremely important in the editing process because it keeps all of our assets organized. And if we're more organized, we can be faster and more efficient when we're actually in the edit. I'm not saying this is the best way, I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is what I've found that works really well for me. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to a template where I keep my folder structure. In my projects folder, I have a project template that I keep at the ready that I can use whenever I need to create a new project. I simply copy this, rename it, and start adding my assets in here. Now let's check out this folder structure. All of my projects look like this. They have an audio folder, they've got a documents folder, an exports, footage, graphics, and projects folder. Now what are all these things? Let's start at the top and just go through everything. So first is audio. In the audio, this is where I keep the audio assets for my projects, whether that is the mix that is coming from a post house, whether that's the music that I'm using to edit, sound effects that are specific to this project, source audio that has come from scenes or interviews or footage that was shot on set, and another folder for voiceover tracks. Up next is our documents folder. This is empty. This is where I keep anything that pertains to this project. That could be storyboards or XML files for translating edits from one program to another, or AAF files for doing the same thing. Anything that is in a document form that pertains to this project goes in here. Up next is the exports folder. Now the exports folder is exactly what it says. This is where I put all of the exports that I have for a project. Most importantly, this is where I put the final exports for a project. So even if I don't save all 19 versions of a project that I create for a client, I will always save the final delivery files for a project in this folder. Up next is our footage folder, and in here it's empty and ready to be filled with whatever the next project calls for. I always have a proxies folder in here ready to go in case the project is going to require me to make proxies. This way, if I have to create proxies for a project and they're not coming straight from the camera, I will always know where they live. If I were to ingest some footage for a project, I would create a new folder that starts with today's year, so 20, and month and the day, underscore ingested. So I would know that I pulled this in for a project on this date. And from in here, I would copy whatever footage was on the hard drive or media cards that I received from a shoot and put it into this folder that corresponds to this date. If I had more than one date, I would have more than one ingested folder. And that helps me go back to my footage backups from the shoot so that I can always backtrack and pull source footage if I need to. Jumping back to the template, we're going to look at our graphics folder. In here, I have 3 folders. From client is for assets that I receive directly from the client. And that can be Illustrator files, that can be Photoshop files, that can be After Effects files. Anything that the client specifically gives me that is art related goes in this from client folder. Next would be sources. This is any type of assets that I pull from myself, whether that's from the internet or basically anybody but the client. And the last folder is my renders folder. In my renders folder, this is where I keep anything that I create in After Effects or Photoshop that is going to be rendered out and saved and then used inside of an edit. And the last folder is projects. Now the projects has a very important folder, Z old. The reason I put the Z in front of the old name is so that it's always pushed towards the bottom of this folder. So if I have any other files that are in here, they will most likely go above that folder. It's just for preference and so that I can easily find what I'm looking for. Now what do I do with that folder? Let's grab a project real quick. So I'll move this in here. This is a blank template that I use anytime I open up Premiere and start a new project. Now, let's say I put today's date in there, and we'll say 20/03/27. Okay, great. Now, let's say I'm starting to edit tomorrow. The first thing that I do when I jump into an edit is I will copy this, move the original into the Z old, and change this to today's date. Remember, we're looking into the future, so 3/28, and I would work from this project. I did that because I'm creating a backup of my project every single day that I edit on it. And that gives me something to fall back on in case my project file gets corrupt, a hard drive gets deleted, some sort of crazy thing happens. Redundancy is your best friend whenever you're an editor and you want to bulletproof your workflow. And that's it. You can by all means create your own folder structure that works for your workflow. The important thing is that you're organized and consistent so that from one project to the next, everything looks the same and you know where to find your assets at any given time. If you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button below, and please check out the link in the description if you want to download this folder structure and start using it today.